He left without a word, and I let him. When my wife left, it felt as if my entire world had come crashing down. We had been married for 4 years, and despite all the challenges we faced, I believed that love could hold us together. I was working tirelessly, juggling 2 jobs to barely make ends meet. But one day, she looked at me with cold eyes and told me she couldn't live in poverty anymore. Without hesitation, she packed her things and walked out. I begged her to stay, but she said she deserved more, leaving me feeling broken and humiliated. For months, I lived in silence, haunted by her words. I kept asking myself what I had done wrong, besides not being wealthy. The nights were the hardest. I would lie awake, imagining her smiling in the arms of another man. But instead of drowning in sorrow, I chose to push myself harder. I decided to rebuild my life, not for her, but for myself. Slowly, things began to change. I was offered a partnership with someone who believed in me, and together we built something solid. Money started flowing in, but more importantly, I gained respect and stability. 2 years later, I received an invitation that almost made me laugh. It was a wedding invitation from her. She was marrying a wealthy man, and she had the audacity to send it to me. At first, I thought about throwing it away, but then I realized this was my moment. I wasn't the same man she had left behind. On the day of her wedding, I arrived in a tailored suit, stepping out of a sleek car that turned heads. The moment I walked into the hall, whispers began. Old friends who once knew me as a poor husband now looked at me in disbelief. I carried myself with quiet confidence, shaking hands with important people who were now part of my circle. When my ex-wife spotted me, her smile faltered, her eyes widened, and panic flashed across her face. She approached me later, her voice trembling. "You came," she said, as if surprised. I smiled politely and replied, "Of course, I wouldn't miss such an important day." Her groom noticed the tension, but she quickly tried to smooth it over. I made sure not to show any anger or bitterness. Instead, I showed her everything she had thought I could never become. During dinner, some guests asked about my life. I told them about my company, my travels, and the work I've been doing. I didn't boast, I just shared the truth. People were impressed, and I saw envy flicker in her eyes as she listened. The man she had chosen for his wealth now seemed uncomfortable, as if he realized she still carried regrets. At one point, she pulled me aside. "Why didn't you tell me you'd succeed?" she whispered. I chuckled softly and answered, "Because love shouldn't depend on wealth. But you taught me that lesson the hard way." She had no response. Her eyes glistened. But I didn't feel pity anymore. The rest of the evening, I enjoyed myself. I danced, I laughed, and I left the hall with dignity. I hadn't come to fight or cause a scene. I came to show her that leaving me had been the biggest mistake of her life. She had traded loyalty for wealth, and in the end, she lost both. As I drove away from the wedding, I didn't look back. My revenge wasn't about ruining her day. It was about showing her that the man she once deemed unworthy had risen beyond her reach. She would live her new life, but she would always carry the memory of what she had thrown away. That night, I slept soundly for the first time in years. I realized that revenge doesn't have to be loud or cruel. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge is simply living better, proving to those who doubted you that they were wrong. She left me because I was poor, but she invited me to her wedding hoping to mock me. Instead, she saw the life she could have had, and that was all the revenge I needed.